Major League Rugby returns to the Lone Star State as Houston hosts the opening game for Week 5 against the Toronto Arrows. A very good evening, folks. Dan Powell with you alongside Brian HOUvTOR, former USA Eagle. And Brian, Houston sit at 500 for the year, coming off the back of a loss to San Diego, while Toronto's last trip to Texas proved fruitful. A win against Austin 2 weeks ago, looking to bounce back here tonight as well. But first, let's take a look at the league standings.
Yeah, Danny, you take a look at where Houston is right now, sitting at 7th place, but only 2 games so far. They got to win at home. They got to make a statement if they want to get into that top 4 down the road in the spring. And Toronto Arrows could have gone 3-0, but they've been disappointed twice.
You talked about that result last week. Let's take a look at Week 4 around the league.
And NOLA loses in a squeaker at home to New York, who remains unblemished, and San Diego makes a statement at Torero Stadium against Utah. Meanwhile, Austin can't get the job done at home, goes to 0-4, and Glendale finally gets their first win. Seattle claws their way out of a 13-point deficit and disappoints the Toronto Arrows in Seattle.
And Brian, a big weekend coming up. This the first of 4 big games.
Absolutely. Every week a big week in the MLR so far.
Well, let's focus on tonight. And first, the away team, the Toronto Arrows, and their keys to victory tonight. Their pathway to the win, well, it's going to come down to the breakdown, really. They've come out with a very young physical forward pack here to Houston, and it will be key to meet them at the coalface and match the physicality against the more experienced SaberCats. And for that home side, Brian?
Absolutely. They have to disrupt the Toronto lineout. Look for Matt Trouville to be the one who disrupts the lineout for the Houston SaberCats. They got to produce quick ball if they want to run against these Arrows, and they got to have a precise kicking game.
Well, the player to watch, in my opinion, for Toronto will be Dan Moore. He shifts to 13 from the wing this week. Uncharacteristically quiet last weekend was Dan Moore. Expect him to explode here tonight on Constellation Field. And the SaberCats, they'll have their work cut out to shut down the outside centre. For the local side, you like the fullback.
I like Zach Pangolin, and I think he needs to rediscover the fountain of youth here. Zach has been a little bit quiet so far in the first 2 games. I want to see him on the kick returns. I want to see him with the counterattack. Always dangerous, and he needs to step up.
It'll be the boot of fly half Sam Windsor that gets Week 5 underway. The referee in charge of tonight's match will be Paul-Henri Corbière, the native of France. He'll have the whistle for this matchup. And Brian, you mentioned it, just one place separating these sides in the standings. A crucial game for both these sides.
Yeah, you know, nobody kicks the ball away more than the Houston SaberCats. Their scrum half, Connor Murphy, and this man with the ball, Sam Windsor. I think they need to keep more ball in hand tonight, be a little bit more dangerous, and be a little bit more unpredictable on the attack.
And it's the SaberCats who go deep on the first kick of the game. Well fielded by the Arrows in their 22. Of course, tonight we see the return of Asaya Kolenisau, the Olympic gold medalist for Fiji. He'll be playing outside centre. The matchup between him and Dan Moore, well, salivating to say the least.
We haven't seen Kolenisau. He returns from a bit of an injury. They need a danger man for this Houston SaberCats attacking back line, and they're missing Joshua Vithi, the man who scored the only try for the Houston SaberCats this year. I'd like to see some line breaks out of the SaberCats tonight, and Kolenisau's the key.
O'Toole, throw-in's good. Murphy to his right, finds Windsor. Windsor short now, picks up Schramm. Born and raised in South Africa, plays his international rugby for Germany though. There's a little gamesmanship there from Murphy as he forces one of the offside players from Toronto into the path of his pass. And we'll come back for a penalty here, just short of halfway for the Houston SaberCats.
Yeah, Marcelo Wainwright, the number 7 for Toronto. He was at the back of that ruck and just not moving away. And so Murphy does what all well-trained scrum halves do and just plants the ball right into the back of Wainwright. Earns the penalty, and from this distance, you can see what the SaberCats are going to do, and that is to rely on the very steadfast boot of Sam Windsor.
21 points in their opening win over Austin, all coming off the right foot of Windsor. He was a leading point scorer in 2018. And you see 30 years of age, comes from Queanbeyan, just outside Canberra in Australia. He has been one of the finds off Major League Rugby, the fly half for the SaberCats, with this attempt for the first points. Flag stay down as that one goes across the face. The Arrows will dot it down as we come back out to the 22. Long range bomb there from Windsor, feeling out the distance from halfway early on.
Yeah, I think that's his first miss of the year. Had the distance, 49 meters was the task, but interesting.
And Murphy now, high midfield bond. Pangilinan comes through, well fielded by the fullback on the 40-metre line, and now Windsor looks to spread the wings. They come out to Meeson. Meeson to Schramm. Now Schramm into the 22. Good opportunity to attack here for the SaberCats. Comes down to Coyle. Gets a start in the 7 jersey tonight. I know you were excited to see him go, Brian.
I think heavy weight on the shoulders of Chris Coyle, and he's got to replace Cecil Garber, the normal number 7 for the team, who was injured just a few weeks ago. And I'd love to see Coyle have a great game.
Sanguinetti gets his first touch as a SaberCat. The Uruguayan capped player. Angelina under pressure there from Moore. Toronto doing well defending this early onslaught from the SaberCats. As Windsor passes early to Meeson. Now they come wide. Kalenasau, a little bit of pasture in front of Kalenasau here as he's taken down on the 40-metre line off the Toronto Arrows. Murphy, quick shift to his left. Murphy again looking to play a little faster tonight, Murphy. Tackett. Youngster out of California, played for Cal Poly. We saw him on the radar with the USA Hawks at the Serevi Sevens almost 5 years ago now. Beauchamp. Good defense early on here from Toronto as Houston just find their way over the 40-metre line now after a good 5 or 6 phases. Murphy out the back. Pangilinan, Windsor, dummies. Can't get away from Brewer though, the big man. Murphy comes down the short side. Under pressure there is his fullback Pangilinan as he is monstered by Van Horn. Meeson with another touch.
This is when Houston needs to get creative, Dan. We've seen a lot of phases so far, but now they're starting to go the wrong direction, and Toronto winning that collision battle.
And there's another one on Diva as well. You are right, Brian. There's 12 phases now, and they've lost ground. Windsor down the blind side. Oh, and that one's picked off. And away they go. The Toronto Arrows will go uncontested for the first try of the match against the run of play. And just like that, straight through the heart, Toronto strike.
And it looked like Josh Sheridan, the one who picks off the ball, and an option on the corner there and a quick pass. It looked like one of the forwards out there trying to make something happen, and that quick ball read well by Sheridan. And as we mentioned, Dan, so many phases that Houston was going through, going the wrong direction. You got to get a little bit more creative there, and sometimes in the last 2 games, I don't like the amount that Houston kicks the ball away, but when you're going backwards through the phases, sometimes the boot is the option.
You almost had the feeling there, those phases just not going anywhere. No positive, real penetration with ball in hand. It was always going to turn nasty for the SaberCats. And now Malcolm from New Zealand will look to convert out onto that right touch line. Flags are up, 7 points to 0. Toronto after almost 7 minutes. Take an early lead over the SaberCats.
talked to one of the attacking coaches for the backs, Paul Emmerich, yesterday, and we talked a little bit about the injury bug that's hit Houston SaberCats and the number of players that have had to rotate through. They've just brought in a few players that are on the bench tonight in the form of Alejandro Nieto and Chris Saint. You know, that had to go deep into the well, Dan, to find players, and sometimes it's hard to continue continuity if you keep switching the bodies that are in that starting 15.
Oh, that kick from Malcolm is charged down. Now Kalenasau coming through. Windsor does well there. He saw he was in an offside position and he pulled out, but the SaberCats putting the Arrows under pressure, not clearing that restart. Now the defense blitzing up as Ferguson goes into 9. Shifts it across to his inside center. That's Jones. Slow ball here for the Arrows. Now they go to the pocket for the kickoff. Malcolm, oh, under pressure. Under a lot of pressure. Doesn't pick up a lot of yardage at all there, Brian. And now Houston have a chance. And now there's a little bit of a scuffle going on. They didn't like the late contest from Murphy. The cheeky little Irishman, he got involved. I think he's actually English, but they're all cheeky.
Well, you know, I think it was fair play to Connor Murphy. You know, you take that risk. That ball came late to the fly half. And I think that Connor Murphy was within his rights to go after that ball. And interesting.
And we'll welcome the third member for our side, Austin Ivan. That was right in front of you, Austin. How was that little scuffle down there between the two sides?
For tonight's match is Passport to the World. And it's a perfect fitting theme because out on the pitch, we will see 16 different countries represented today between Houston and Toronto. So just a perfect fitting theme for the first home match of the season here in Houston.
Well, thank you, Austin. Yeah, it really is a melting pot, the Major League Rugby. Players from all over the world showing that it is truly a global game.
Well, and I think that last exchange, Dan, was an opportunity for some of those different countries to get together and have a little bit of a communication.
And we will come back to the lineup after that little brouhaha. And it will be the SaberCats with a throw-in. Oh, obstruction there on the bind, setting them all up. And that is a costly mistake as you piggyback the Arrows out of their 22 with this penalty.
Trouville comes down with the ball, a solid target and a great throw from the hooker O'Toole, but the problem is that when he lands to set that maul, there's a body in front of him, and hence the obstruction, Dan, and they let Toronto out of the pressure that they had just created for them. It was a great chance for the Houston SaberCats, and it's gone squandered.
You mentioned already, Brian, just one try in 2 games, not a great strike rate, and giving up opportunities like that in the red zone will frustrate Justin Fitzpatrick, their head coach.
Absolutely. You know, Toronto now, the ball out near the halfway line, and just like that, they flip the field.
Another handling error comes in as the scrum will set down just on the Arrows side of halfway. So the rugby gods giveth and they taketh away. It'll be the SaberCats with another chance here at this scrum.
Love the story behind that number 1, Rob Brower, and he just coughed the ball up, but he's almost 37 years old, Dan. He was the oldest debutant in Canadian history. At 33 years old, received his first cap. A farm boy from Lindsay, Ontario, and he loves playing with that maple leaf on his chest, and he's just a good old boy.
We'll reset the scrum. There you see him, the number 1. Robbie Brower, what a great story.
That's that farm boy CrossFit. You just throw hay bales, you mend fences, and you get prop strong.
Well, there's a lot to be said for that lifestyle, and as it pertains to rugby, I mean, wrestling in particular. Look at the strong wrestling hot pockets around the country, typically rural areas. You remember when you play, you go against the farm boy, and it's just that different strength, isn't it?
That's That's right. If you can wrestle a steer, you can probably wrestle a tight head prop.
As free kick goes to the Arrows, they tap quickly now with Wainwright. Scored a great try against the Seawolves last week. Moore gets a touch. Quatrin takes it up to the SaberCats 40 now. They come wide with Malcolm. Finds his outside centre. So he's inside centre and Jones. Ferguson, Malcolm, midfield. Brower, oh, that one slipped up a little high. The referee really doesn't have an option there as Diva just slipped up over the shoulder.
Might have a discussion here. You wonder if there's going to be a warning from Henri Corbier, or will he reach into his pocket?
Let's have a look at this. Right, oh yeah, he clips him pretty good.
Yeah, and that one could definitely draw yellow from Corbier. And just really not even attempting to drop his body height down at the tackle there. Just a wild kind of swinging arm, and hence the player on the ground for Toronto. The aforementioned Rob.
Always a challenging, how many fingers am I holding up? And the concussion protocol, the utmost importance in rugby. Wouldn't be surprised to see Broward take a 10-minute break here to get a proper assessment.
So penalty awarded. You know, some of these HIA protocols, the head injury assessment, and ultimately the referee sometimes, even if the on-field doctor for the Arrows clears Rob Brower for extra play, or to continue playing, I should say, the referee, if he doesn't like it, he can actually send him off and demand the HIA, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen for the loose head prop. And now Sam Malcolm going to tee one up and try to put a few more points on the board for the Arrows.
There you see the task in front of Malcolm to add 3 more points to the board with this penalty after the high tackle on Diva. This to take them out to 10 points. Flags up again. Malcolm stays perfect on the evening. 10 points to 0. Toronto in the lead after 15 minutes.
Playing at home if you're Houston, and you don't want to give away points, and that ill-disciplined stuff is pretty inexcusable from a coaching standpoint. It's going to happen, but you definitely want to minimize that.
Now it's the Arrows looking to work this just outside their own 22. Ferguson goes high on the box kick. They've been outside his 22 on that kick, Brian. Could be coming all the way back to the line out. Nope. You see Matt Truville saying, was he out of the 22? I kind of agree with him. I thought they'd pushed that ball out of the 22.
Certainly didn't look like a long enough kick.
O'Toole finds Meeson at the back. Now wins it to the line. Murphy, Windsor, they come wide. Tackett gets the arms free now, finds Pangelian. Again, it looks to be a lot of lateral ball movement here, not much go forward.
Well, it's a great result for Connor Murphy in a kick, and like I said, Dan, it's the team that kicks the most of their own possessions away, I should say, and that one finds the touchline. It's a good nudge, but the thing I'd worry about, you mentioned it, that lateral movement. It's not only the lateral movement of the ball, but it's the alignment of the players, and you don't want to be an easy team to defend. And that is what Houston looks like right now. If you know where the ball's going to go and the options off of the ball, then it's easy for Toronto to come up and defend them.
Toronto does well to secure their line out as Wainwright goes for a run up to his 22. Ferguson goes back to his fly half in Malcolm, who goes down the middle of the field. Kohlberg goes to his fullback. Angelina, little chip over the top, needs the bounce, doesn't get it as Sheridan does well. The try scorer secures possession for his side, and Ferguson knows there's no one home in the back three now. Links that one just over the top. Kalenasau, he won't get back there in time. Good play from the little scrum half for the Arrows.
A handy little kick there, and sometimes it's okay to surrender possession for a little bit of territory, slow things down and regroup, and that's exactly what Toronto does there from the hands of Sheridan. A nice little kick. And the effectiveness of the kick, Dan, and you'll see it throughout this game. And if you're a casual viewer at home and trying to understand the sport, it's what happens with the ball once you kick it. Do you surrender an easy possession? Is it a ball that can be counterattacked with? What is the effect of giving the ball away in essence?
Well, the Arrows have stolen the line out against throw there, and now Ferguson looks to set his fullback away in Evans. Jinking run there from the fullback. May have spilled that one forward. Referee Corbiere agrees, and we'll pack a scrum down for the SaberCats.
Well, coming into tonight, statistically, Houston had a much better line out. They win a lot more of their line out ball than Toronto does, and we said the keys of the game is that Houston has to control that line out, and that time Toronto steals one, and hopefully that's not a sign of things to come for the SaberCats. You know, aside, Dan, from the two props here for the Arrows, Dolzell and Brower, it's a very young squad, this very young pack, most of them 22, 23 years old, and they're very physical and fit. If they can keep their discipline and they can keep their shape throughout this game, they're going to be a headache for the SaberCats.
Off the back they go. Murphy kicks over the head of Oiterman. Another good kick there from the 9. And that's what you hit on just before, Brian. It's not a matter of kicking, but it's a matter of the quality of the kicks.
Yeah, and another key to the game that we talked about in the intro, Dan, and that precision kicking. And what I like so far is that normally the number of kicks that we've seen from Houston has been minimized, and the effect of their kicks has actually been really accurate.
Arrows slow to this line out. It'll be Quatrin. In your screen, he'll have the throw. They've done well clearing from out of their 22 so far this evening. Great take at the top. Cellini. Now they'll look to maul this forward. There you see Ferguson pleading for a penalty. Goes to the right foot instead. High kick. Kohlberg under pressure. That's spilt forward by the Arrows. Advantage to the SaberCats as Angelina goes for a run up to halfway. They need quick ball. They've got numbers to the left. Windsor, a little kick over the top. Kalenasau doesn't get the bounce as Evans spills that ball. Advantage to Houston. May have expired here as Ferguson. Yep. They have happy to let that one play. Wainwright goes for a run. That little kick over the top from Windsor. Just a couple of yards too long as Kalenasau couldn't extend. A little sloppy play at the back. Ferguson under pressure.
Oh, he's lucky to get that ball back.
Evans has time in the pocket. Goes down to Kohlberg. Windsor really rips that right boot into the ball. Well, the Arrows let that bounce, and now the mistake. Well, that's a cardinal error back there, Brian HOUvTOR, letting the high ball bounce, no pressure coming through. It's the SaberCats now with a chance. Windsor notices no one at home. Oiderman calls the mark inside his 22. Danger signs there, though, for the Arrows.
Yeah, and I'll come in from the kicking game once again, and as you mentioned, you just never let the ball bounce, and it's what you're schooled on as a deep three player. You've been there, Dan. Somebody's got to make the call, and somebody's got to make the catch, or bad things happen. That's what happened to Toronto there, and they're lucky to get the ball back, and I think Windsor should have kept that one and run through some phases instead of trying the sneaky little chip over the top. And now things go from bad to worse because Kohlberg has spilled it forward. And so now the net effect is a ton of territory that's gained, and all from the kicking game.
Well, conditions look to be absolutely perfect down the field. Maybe some big game nerves. We're going to take a short break. When we return, the first half continues. After 23 minutes, it's Toronto in the lead. 10 points to 0 over Houston.
Aviva, proudly sponsoring Houston SaberCats Rugby. With over 16,000 customers and 4,400 employees across the globe, we have delivered unrivaled excellence for more than 50 years. In an environment that's increasing in complexity, the one constant is the need for change. Change driven by new demands, by the desire to do things better, and by sustaining what you've created. We enable customers to master change, pushing boundaries in a digital world where everything is possible.
We know athletes because we are athletes. At the Sports Medicine Clinic at the Baylor College of Medicine, we provide top-level care to athletes of all levels in Houston and around the country. As the official healthcare provider of the Houston SaberCats, our doctors are dedicated to safely enhancing our athletes' performance while promoting recovery and injury prevention, getting you back on the field, in the game, and ready to roar.
And welcome back to Constellation Field, just on the southwest outskirts of Houston in Sugarland. It is a tight game here. Toronto, though, have made the most of their opportunities in the opening 20. And they lead 10 points to 0 over the SaberCats.
Yeah, marker 0.
Let's go, boys, eh? Nice. Let's go focus in, find that balance.
Still time off. We are waiting players.
Dan, a couple of opportunities on begging for the Houston SaberCats.
Time is on.
They've got to be disappointed, and hopefully the next 20 minutes goes better for Houston, because they've had chances not only in the half of Toronto, but inside the 5 meters of the Toronto half, and so they got to come away with points. Just a little bit more clinical, perhaps, from these SaberCats when they have opportunities.
We'll see some running repairs there. You saw the exact moment. I think he found where it hurt. You saw him jump pretty high.
Looks like Quatrin, perhaps, is that the hooker?
Yeah, definitely one of the front rowers. Quatrin, yep, you're right, Brian. Oh, that's a good one too. Look at that.
He brought a black eye into the game to begin with, so he's just stacking up some bit of makeup.
Crouch. Think. Bind.
It'll be Ferguson. As this put in. Both scrums pretty solid so far tonight. Francis under pressure at the back. And that pressure forces the turnover as the penalty goes the way of the SaberCats. As you see the bench on their feet, there's big Jake Turnbull. He'll be looking to inject himself into the game at some point tonight.
When your head coach is a prop, really nothing makes you happier. Most likely Justin Fitzpatrick, probably pretty giddy about that kind of result in the scrum.
Okay, perfect.
Blood not stopping from the nose of Quatrin, so he's going to get a replacement. You got 10 minutes to fix it up, plug it, get some cloth up there.
I think he's got the double whammy there, Brian. Looks like he's got a laceration on the nose and then the blood coming from in the nose as well. So, oof, that one's not going to tickle, is it?
A few stitches on the nose, perhaps. Well, you know, women love scars, Dan, so it'll work out for Quatrin in the end, I'm sure.
Now Windsor flat to Kalenasau. Another penalty. This one probably in a more kickable range for Windsor. Don't think he really hit that first one well. And not surprisingly, he'll take the shot here. Get some points on the board for Houston.
Yeah, about 5 meters closer from his last attempt. You'd think the accuracy of Windsor off the boot. There's the water boy there, Paul Emmerich, wearing the blue jersey, one of the most accomplished centers in U.S. Eagle history.
Well, I just think there's a lot of referees from the past who are wondering why Paul's being so nice now. Where was this Paul Emmerich years ago? What a legend, the Cactus, Paul Emmerich. Now Windsor, better strike. Flags are up, 10 points victory, the home side. They're on the board after 27 minutes here in Sugar Land.
So far, Dan, I mean, the scoreboard would reflect differently, but Houston really has had most of the territorial advantage. They've played most of the game inside the Toronto half. It's just they haven't been clinical enough to come away with points when they should, but they've been doing a good job of playing rugby inside that 50-meter end.
They'll be looking for a positive exit here out of their 22. Murphy. Good clearing kick there from the scrum half. Should be up just short of the halfway line. There it is. The man, Butch Nguyen-Schwander, the assistant referee. Local Texas man. There you see him in the lovely striking pink outfit. Well taken by the Arrows off the top. Wainwright off the back. Goes short. Big hole opens up right down the middle for Jones now. Jones, Brower, they're coming back. Oh, the prop. He had try line sparkling in his eyes. Visions of a 50-meter try, but taken away by a knock-on.
And a great line break. We haven't seen any from Toronto so far, and Spencer Jones just finds a gaping hole in the defensive setup of Houston, and Dolezal can't convert. Great pass right into the hands of the number 3, and no dice. So it's going to be a little bit of relief there for Houston because Toronto looked very dangerous right there.
Ball at the back now with Murphy. Finds Tackett. Tackett finds Jack Evans' right shoulder. Murphy at the back. Francis got through there a little quick to the number 8, Colby Francis. Been really impressed with him last week in particular against Seattle. Big physical number 8. Really like the looks of this youngster.
Yeah, we were talking before the game about how this is the classic for him. He needs to step up and kind of lead some of those younger players in the forward pack. He's been a little quiet so far, has Colby Francis.
Ing with his first throw of the game as he's on as a blood suck for Quatrin. Ferguson to his right, finds Ing, looking to make an impact, exactly what you want. Malcolm plays out the back. Jones looking for another opening. Ferguson lost that pass wide. Good interchange from the forwards. Great offload. Second phase play. Brower. Well, he's stumped into the ground there. Ferguson back to his right. Kick over the top will beat everyone. Does that go out in the full? Judging by body language, it does not. The SaberCats, the heads drop. There'll be a line out here for Houston, but they're entrenched in their 22, Brian.
Wow, another precision kick from Toronto. Even the head ref there, Corbier, asks if it went out on the full. He wasn't sure either, but he is assured by his assistant ref. And inaccuracies again from the line out by Houston. Not able to win their own set piece and giving Toronto some help inside their half.
And Brian, just an update. The game going on in Austin, Texas tonight. 12-3, the Legion. They are in the lead over Austin Elite. That game at Dell Diamond in Austin. There's Ferguson. Finds a little offload there. Cellini. Ferguson, he's got the advantage, goes across. Esdale there, but not a bad option from Ferguson, knowing he had the penalty advantage, Brian.
Yeah, you wonder here, and last week against Seattle, when they had these kind of opportunities, every one of them went into touch. And this one looks to be no different. Off the boot of Malcolm, and now look for the maul of Toronto. They'll bring this ball down and just try to push it over. Watch for Chiellini. Yep, he'll be the one.
Now the maul is set as they push to the line. They peel off. They're close. They're over. They're down. That's the try for the Arrows. They're second of the match. They extend 15 points to 3. It's the big boys up front who get it done.
And looked like the dot down actually came from Josh Van Horn, 6'5" firefighter from Brantford, Ontario. And sometimes, Dan, even when you know what's coming, you can't stop it. And Toronto just dared the Houston SaberCats. And they win this contest. And it starts with Chiellini, then the peel from Van Horn. Great job, just very slippery in that ball there, and Houston looking for a shoulder to run into, and they can't find where the ball is. That soft spot, they find it, they utilize it, and they push it over. And we said last week, Dan, you saw it, you were there so many times that they went for the corner.
Malcolm has his kick almost in an identical position from his first. No mistake, flags go up, 17 points to 3. Let's go back down onto the field with Austin Ivan.
Thanks, Dan. An injury report update on Andrew Quatin. He's still trying to control the bleeding. It's all over his jerseys, his pants, and his top. The trainer is trying to give him ice on his forehead and keeps trying to wipe his nose. The blood is just uncontrollably coming out. Quatin keeps saying it's stinging, and he's spitting out blood. It's all over. They just really can't control it, so it's still a problem that they're trying to deal with on the sideline.
Thank you, Austin. We'll keep an eye on that, see if Quatin can rejoin this contest. Geez, it makes it sitting here with you, Brian, much more attractive than being back out there.
Very graphic details from Austin. Well, you know, and if Quatin can't come back in, Stephen Eng is a really good replacement. We saw how hungry he was. He came in, got a line-out throw, and then a touch right off the back of that line-out. Very hungry and very experienced. So they don't lose a whole lot without Quatin, but they're going to run out of time if they can't stop the bleeding.
Some changes also coming in for the SaberCats. Injury forcing Alejandro Nieto, one of the Uruguayan internationals that have joined the SaberCats this year, onto the field. There he is in the 21 jersey, playing on the open side of the scrum. To enter the final 5 minutes of the first half here. Absolutely critical that the SaberCats can get some points out of this trip down to the Toronto half. And there's the penalty. Interesting decision, down by 14. Do you take the 3 here, or do you try to put it into a corner and get 7?
Well, it's so far the bright spot for the SaberCats, Dan, is their scrum. And they've really controlled the arrows up front there when they pack down, and you'd look for them to continue to exploit that advantage. A great kick into touch, and now this is the area where we've seen them before and they haven't come away with points, and it's critical to be able to go into the half with only 3.5 remaining until that halftime whistle. Dan, you got to come away with points here, and the SaberCats certainly would like a 5-pointer rather than a 3-pointer.
Quatrin, tough as nails, back on the field. We saw the Arrows maul just moments ago find their way into the in goals. Now look at this, all the SaberCats. Kalenisau, he's in there as well to back. They're over, they've dotted it down, and Constellation Field light up as the SaberCats get their first try of the match.
And the try comes from the tight head prop, Jamie Deaver. And they needed to have that. They needed to have that for where they are at home at Constellation Field in Houston. They're stationed in the game right now, down by too many points and too many opportunities without points to show for it. I love the all hands on deck. You see number 12, Max Tackett's in there. Kalenisau comes in to push. The blindside wing, Malachi Esdale's in there. Everybody comes to help, and it results in that 5-pointer that they so desperately need.
Well, that danger period right before the halftime break, it comes up. Aces for the SaberCats. Now Windsor will look to make this a 7-point game with this successful conversion. Flags are up, 17 points to 10. The Arrows still in the lead over the SaberCats.
It was a critical moment, a moment they had to have, and a moment that they actually achieved.
Such a lovely strike through the ball. Windsor, they go deep. Nieto. Murphy at the back. Very important they don't give the ball back to Toronto here in good field position.
Yeah, a bit of a slice off the foot of Murphy there, and they give the line out to Toronto in a pretty juicy spot on the field just outside the 22-meter line. And you mentioned that dangerous time just before the half, and there's still a minute left. Toronto would love to put a few more points on the board before they go into the showers.
Of course, we talked about the Arrows, 6 players away on ARC duty with Canada and the Maple Leafs. Kingsley Jones on his side. Also Morgan Mitchell, their import front rower, who's been just outstanding for them in the opening 4 weeks. He picked up an injury against Seattle last week.
No, he's coming from the side to play the ball.
There you go, coming in from the side, referee Corbier. And now May, no surprise, will take the 3, Brian.
Yeah, Dan, just like that. And with a minute left, you think we're going in, and we just got within a try of Toronto, and now an easy kick from center field, 22-meter line. You think that Malcolm would have no trouble slotting this one. A bit of a gift at halftime. Certainly nothing they can't overcome in the second half, but just don't want to slide mentally in that last minute. And as you said, these Toronto Arrows, they're missing 6 of their starters because of the call-ups for the Canadian national team. So they're playing some pretty good rugby without 6 of the best players that they have to choose from. So perhaps good things to come for Toronto, who's so far 1-2.
Penalty is good. 20 points to 10 as we are in the closing moments of the first half here in Houston, Texas. It's the Arrows in control over the SaberCats.
Perhaps a bit of injury time from the injury to Quadrant earlier, and so there will be a restart kick.
And the turnover comes to the SaberCats. O'Toole leaves that one behind. Now Windsor. Oh, Tackett took a little peek in front of him, saw Dan Moore, didn't like what he saw. Now Moore, he goes wide and he finds a winger. Oiderman, he's faster than a bald man's haircut, Oiderman, and he gets the try. What a heartbreaker for the SaberCats as the Arrows, they inflict more pain.
Well, that's an incredible last couple of minutes. I think Houston were already back in the locker room, sitting on the bench, talking about how they were going to come back from the 7-point deficit. And just like that, they leak 10 points. It's really unfortunate, too, because they had just won the turnover ball and looking dangerous inside the Toronto half. And this is how quickly Toronto can hurt you, and transition defense so difficult on the turnover. You never want to leak those long-range tries, and so far we've seen 2 of them. One from an intercept early in the first half when we saw Josh Sheridan sneak across, and this one from a bobbled ball, advantage being played by the referee. It hops back up into a set of Toronto hands, and then eventually it's Avery Ottoman, and he makes Houston pay in a hush over the crowd that was just celebrating a try 2 minutes ago from the home team.
Take it out to a 17-point lead at the break. Malcolm bending it back. Malcolm, eat your heart out. David Beckham, no mistakes. 27 points to 10, and that does take us through to the halftime break. What an opening half, in particular that last 5 minutes from Toronto.
Unbelievable. I think Houston's got to be scratching their head. What just happened, fellas? It was 17-10 2 minutes ago.
That concludes the first half. We'll take a break. When we come back, all the highlights, and we'll talk Chris Silverthorne, head coach of the Toronto Arrows.
HOUvTOR, proudly sponsoring Houston SaberCats Rugby. With over 16,000 customers and 4,400 employees across the globe, we have delivered unrivaled excellence for more than 50 years. In an environment that's increasing in complexity, the one constant is the need for change. Change driven by new demands, by the desire to do things better, and by sustaining what you've created. We enable customers to master change, pushing boundaries in a digital world where everything is possible.
We know athletes because we are athletes. At the Sports Medicine Clinic at the Baylor College of Medicine, we provide top-level care to athletes of all levels in Houston and around the country. As the official healthcare provider of the Houston SaberCats, our doctors are dedicated to safely enhancing our athletes' performance while promoting recovery and injury prevention, getting you back on the field, in the game, and ready to roar.
George, Marla.
Marla.
George, Jerry, Stacy.
Stacy.
Jerry.
George, Stacy.
Stacy.
George.
Names are good, big names are better. Watch Seinfeld all week for your chance to win tickets to see some big names at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Big names like Camilla Cabello, Tuesday, March 5th. Tim McGraw, Thursday, March 7th. And Zed, Friday, March 8th. Just look for the keyword during the show. Seinfeld, weeknights at 11 and 11:30 on Cube 57.
Once upon a time, there was a time when time stood still and
You could pause the hustle and bustle to unwind with good music and a cold, refreshing beer. Well, friend, that time can now be any time thanks to Love Street Kolsch Style Blonde. It's a crisp, easy drinking, go-with-the-flow beer brewed with floral German hops. Hello. Well, hi there. When all you need is to kick back and give the soul some free time, all you need is Love Street. Brewed with love in Houston, Texas by the Carbach Brewing Company.
Brother on three. 1, 2, 3.
On the board. Think about all the things you've sacrificed. Think of how far you've come. What we're going to do today to kickstart this brand new league off.
Oh my goodness, a win! Super for Houston, Texas. What a try for the SaberCats.
You have this, and that is a fact.
Patty Smith here with Paul Gallant of HOUvTOR's newest sports show, Just Saying.
We're at the Rustic every Thursday for lunch. Guys, this is the coolest new spot in Houston. Great drinks, killer food, cool vibe.
Not to mention, they have great live music. Catch the best local and national acts on the outdoor stage.
Check them out online at therustic.com. Check out Just Saying at HOUv57.com.
And hit us up with your questions every Thursday at noon right here at the Rustic.
Just Saying, you won't regret it.
Tonight's broadcast is brought to you by Viva, Kabash and Baylor. Well, folks, an enthralling opening 40 minutes to this round 5 clash. It's the Toronto Arrows in the lead after a late surge, 27 points to 10. When we return from the break, we'll continue the build up to the second half with highlights and an interview down the field with Austin Ivan.
We know athletes because we are athletes. At the Sports Medicine Clinic at the Baylor College of Medicine, we provide top-level care to athletes of all levels in Houston and around the country. As the official healthcare provider of the Houston SaberCats, our doctors are dedicated to safely enhancing our athletes' performance while promoting recovery and injury prevention, getting you back on the field, in the game, and ready to roar.
George, Marla.
Marla. George. Jerry, Stacy.
Stacy.
Jerry.
George, Stacy.
Stacy.
Names are good, big names are better. Watch Seinfeld all week for your chance to win tickets to see some big names at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Big names like Camilla Cabello, Tuesday, March 5th. Tim McGraw, Thursday, March 7th. And Zed, Friday, March 8th. Just look for the keyword during the show. Seinfeld, weeknights at 11 and 11:30 on HOUv57.
Brother on three. 1, 2, 3.
On the board. Think about all the things you've sacrificed. Think of how far you've come. What we're going to do today to kickstart this brand new league off.
Oh my goodness, a win! Super for Houston, Texas. What a try for the SaberCats.
You have this, and that is a fact.
Patty Smith here with Paul Gallant of HOUvTOR's newest sports show, Just Saying.
We're at the Rustic every Thursday for lunch. Guys, this is the coolest new spot in Houston. Great drinks, killer food, cool vibe.
Not to mention, they have great live music. Catch the best local and national acts on the outdoor stage.
Check them out online at therustic.com. Check out Just Saying at HOUv57.com.
And hit us up with your questions every Thursday at noon right here at the Rustic.
Just Saying, you won't regret it.
Hello, my name is Christopher Santarose. I'm the master instructor of United Taekwondo here in Katy, Texas. We teach Taekwondo to children and adults of all ages. We also have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Friday nights at 6:30. We look forward to meeting you and your family soon.
And welcome back. Halftime here at Constellation Field. 27 points to 10. We're going to go down onto the field now with Austin Ivan, who's joined by SaberCats owner Mike Lawyer.
Thanks, Dan. Yes, I am with Mike Lawyer, SaberCats owner. First home match of the season. How excited are you to get to see the team here in person?
Well, I'm very, very excited. I could be a little more excited given the score right now. It's a bit of a challenge for us on the second half, but it's good to be back out in the field watching the Cats play, and hopefully we get it back in the second half. But it's just fun to be out here. Great weather, great field, and hopefully a tough team.
Great field, but this isn't going to be your home for much longer. You guys are building a beautiful brand new stadium. Tell me more about the process of that.
Well, you're right about that. We hope that we're there already. So anyway, so this is temporary. We used it last year. We're using it this year. But we have started building a stadium. It was scheduled to be finished in January, of all things, but with a very, very, very heavy rain schedule that we had, it's been delayed enormously. So now we're looking forward to maybe in April. In fact, in April is our first game at the new stadium. So we're looking forward to it, a purpose-built stadium for the Cats.
Now, Major League Rugby has only been in existence for 2 years, but you've been involved in many things throughout your career. What made you want to be the owner of the SaberCats?
I don't know if I wanted to be the owner, but I wanted to be involved in rugby. I played it since college. I played there since my freshman year, and I played for the next 18 years. And I played here. I played in the Northeast. I played in Europe, in London, and I really like it. I think being a rugby player was probably one of the best decisions I ever made, and I want to share the enthusiasm of the game, and the excitement, the physicality. I think it's a fantastic game. When people come, you fall in love with it. So I'm trying to share it with everybody. It's a great thing to be involved in.
When you watch the SaberCats out there, do you miss playing a little bit?
A bit, yes, and then common sense comes in, but I do. Of course, I'm shouting like, "Oh, you should be doing that, get it out." But yeah, my playing days are over, I think.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Good luck the second half.
Well, thank you very much.
Dan, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Mike, for giving us some time in tonight's broadcast. We'll take another break as we continue to build up to the second half here at Constellation Field. 27 points to 10, though. The Arrows, they're inflicting some damage here on the home side, SaberCats.
We know athletes because we are athletes. At the Sports Medicine Clinic at the Baylor College of Medicine, we provide top-level care to athletes of all levels in Houston and around the country. As the official healthcare provider of the Houston SaberCats, our doctors are dedicated to safely enhancing our athletes' performance while promoting recovery and injury prevention, getting you back on the field, in the game, and ready to roar.
George, Marla.
Marla. George. Jerry, Stacy.
Stacy.
Jerry.
George, Stacy. Stacy.
George.
Names are good, big names are better. Watch Seinfeld all week for your chance to win tickets to see some big names at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. Big names like Camilla Cabello, Tuesday, March 5th. Tim McGraw, Thursday, March 7th. And Zed, Friday, March 8th. Just look for the keyword during the show. Seinfeld, weeknights at 11 and 11:30 on Cube 57.
Brother on three. 1, 2, 3. On the board.
Think about all the things you've sacrificed. Think of how far you've come. What we're going to do today to kickstart this brand new league off.
Oh my goodness, are we in Suba or Houston, Texas? What a try for the SaberCats.
You have this, and that is a fact.
Patty Smith here with Paul Gallant of Cube 57's newest sports show, Just Saying.
We're at the Rustic every Thursday for lunch. Guys, this is the coolest new spot in Houston. Great drinks, killer food, cool vibes.
Not to mention, they have great live music. Catch the best local and national acts on the outdoor stage.
Check them out online at therustic.com. Check out Just Saying at HOUvTOR.com.
And hit us up with your questions every Thursday at noon right here at The Rustic.
Just Saying, you won't regret it.
Hello, my name is Christopher Senarose. I'm the master instructor of United Taekwondo here in Katy, Texas. We teach Taekwondo to children and adults of all ages. We also have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Friday nights at 6:30. We look forward to meeting you and your family soon.
And welcome back here to Constellation Field. Halftime has come to an end, 27 points to 10. We're going to jump back down onto the field with Austin Ivan, who's joined by Aaron Carpenter of the Toronto Arrows.
Thanks, Dan. Yes.
Kevin, do you hear me? Perfect. Butch, do you hear me? So good. Yeah.
And a few little technical difficulties down the field there with Austin. We'll get back down to her as soon as we can. Brian, a very, very interesting first half. Almost half of two halves as both sides opened up with some scoring late in the first.
Yeah, and some opportunities for Houston early, and they couldn't capitalize. And Toronto makes them pay. He's going nowhere, and then the ball steps. Josh Sheridan on the sideline, and that's a whiff. He loves scoring as a winger. Lots of grass, one no defenders. And off of the ball, there's a great line-out throw by Stephen Ng.
Cut it. 1 minute.
Eventually, the ball changes hands, ends up in those of Josh Van Horn, and he rolls it over for another Toronto try. And things starting to look out of hand for Houston SaberCats, but then they get a line out. They'll roll one in on their own, and that comes from the work of the entire team, but Jamie Deaver dots it down, and then Malcolm adds 3 more for Toronto, builds the lead. Just at the end of the half, and 3 points already in extra time after the 40 had blown. One more phase from Houston. It goes the wrong way, and sometimes you're trying so hard, Dan, nothing really could do.
Hey, you're right, Brian. Unfortunately, once that momentum starts going, it's very, very tough to turn around. The halftime break potentially could be the biggest saviour for the SaberCats tonight as they'll look to turn things around. They'll get first use of the ball. We Malcolm to get us restarted under the second half. SaberCats in the black on the right, receiving.
Often tell how vociferous time talk was, but by how well a team comes out of the gates in the second half.
Dale there, doesn't contest, waits instead for Evans to field before he bundles him down to the 40-metre line. What was that word you just used again, Brian?
I think I said vociferous.
Ooh.
Can
I have the origin? Oh, talking of origin, Ferguson, he knows his origin. That's Toronto's. He's streak 3, and Malcolm Murphy, a try saver on the fly half. Well, it's worrying signs here early. Jones, he gets room service passage over the try line. And the Toronto Arrows, what a start to the second half for them.
Nightmare for Houston, and it started with a great kick chase on the Cats' end, but then things start to unravel. And another big line break, another big chase. Lots of open field, and Malcolm gets dragged down by Connor Murphy, but there's already too many white jerseys in support. When you smell blood, then you go, and that's exactly what happened with the Arrows there. Take a look once again. A phase there. Sheridan looking for some help, and instead he finds daylight, scoots around a couple of forwards. You like the matchup when you got a back against forwards. He splits the gap. Malcolm in support. Great pass on the outside, and nobody in front of number 12, Spencer Jones. He adds another 5 for Toronto, and boy, Dan, it doesn't matter how you come out of the locker room. If you come out on fire and you don't really check off all the boxes in front of you, and that's what Houston is guilty of.
Well, a dream start for the Arrows. 3 tries in 4 minutes now. 2 at the end of the first half, and they open the second with a 5-pointer as well. 32 points to 10. Malcolm adds a little bit of salt into the wound. 34-10, 24-point gap now between the Arrows and the SaberCats.
Well, it's all bad news right now for Houston. The only really the good news, the silver lining, if you can find one, Dan, right now, is that there's plenty of time left for Houston, and you just got to start by building slowly, one phase at a time.
Well, I came out this week, Brian, and I tipped the Houston SaberCats to win this game on the back of Morgan Mitchell being out. 6 players away at ARC. I vastly underestimated this Toronto Arrows side, it seems.
Well, I think last week when they played against Seattle, and we saw how potent their attack can be, and really how forceful their defense was. And Seattle is a pretty formidable side, and they're very physical. And I think Toronto matched them for most of the game. Just very abrasive, very aggressive, and accurate in the contact area. So, yeah, you can't take them lightly. And with a couple of players out, they're going to be even more dangerous when those players come back from the ARC, Dan.
And of course, they begin their season 8 road games. As the weather in Toronto in February, surprisingly not very rugby friendly.
You never know anymore. Snow in Vegas yesterday, snow in the hills outside of San Diego. So I think the Legion would probably had worse weather staying at home in San Diego than traveling to Texas.
Yeah, I think you're right. We saw torrential rain. I think you were there for that game. It was just pouring down. Good stuff. We'll have this line out. See Dan Moore, talked about him in the build-up to this game. Again, you would think at 34 points to 10, you would have called his name a little more. He was involved with Woodman's try. Quality player. Nito. Murphy comes to Pendolini down the blind side. Pendolini slices. Support on the inside. Kohlberg gets his first try as a SaberCat. And you said it, Brian, time is not their enemy here. The scoreboard is, but that will go a long way into clawing their way back.
Well, you just got to start with one positive thing at a time, and maybe if they can get their defense to gel on the field and maybe get some more opportunities like that. I mentioned Zach Pendolini at the beginning of the game, Dan, because I know that he's capable of these kind of moments. We've seen him throughout his career. He's been quiet in the first 2 matches. This one is a much needed burst from the old hand wearing the 15 jersey. And look at the burst of pace. He can't quite get through Sheridan, but a nice trailing line by Kelly Kohlberg, and he dots down for Houston, and they had to have that one. If Toronto's scored again, it was going to be lights out, and Houston had to have a try. Pendolini steps up.
Well, Kelly Kohlberg played a lot of his rugby up in Dallas. Finds his way down the highway to Houston to play up with the SaberCats. As Windsor. Unsuccessful with that conversion. 34-15. 19-point ball game here.
Houston fans will know that one of their most potent attacking threats in the form of Joshua Vithi, who usually wears that number 11 jersey, not available for selection tonight. I think he's carrying a little bit of an injury.
No, Black, no.
Last game that I saw him in, it looked like he was hobbling a little bit on an ankle. So that's possibly what it is, Dan, but he's certainly one of those X-factor type of players that you really can't account for with just one defender, and they're missing him tonight. The injury bug, I mentioned it before, it's certainly haunted the SaberCats early this season, and then the question is if they win tonight, then it'll be a great turn of events in the second half. If they lose again, will they have enough time in the season if some of those players come back from injury and some of the new players come in to right the ship?
It's an interesting question, and interesting with the schedule too, with the weather. As the penalty goes away at the SaberCats, the run home for these warm weather sides is going to be spent on the road, and vice versa for teams like Toronto, New York, Glendale. They're going to be at home quite a bit in the back half of the season.
Yeah, and I talked to head coach Mike Tolkien of New York, and he said if we can get through the first few weeks and come back and be at least 500 when we get our first home game, that'll be good enough for us. So far they're undefeated, but the teams that are traveling a lot right now, these Toronto Arrows in particular, they have to get a few games on the road.
Blood, time off.
We have some more blood here this time. Go back and see. It looked like maybe one of the SaberCat players getting some attention.
Time on.
That is the reserve flanker, number 28, Alejandro Nieto. 66 caps for the Uruguayan national team. In the pool of death in the Rugby World Cup 15, you'll remember, Dan, Australia, England, Wales, and Fiji all in the same pool with little Uruguay. Advantage being played by the ref here. Things going well right now for the SaberCats.
O'Toole goes off that maul. They have the advantage. Let's see what Windsor does. He likes to get creative when he has the advantage in his back pocket. Murphy now, as they are 10 metres out from the line, the SaberCats. No advantage coming.
I wouldn't be surprised to see them boot this one into the corner. I know 3 points is automatic from the boot here of Sam Windsor, but you're digging a big hole, and Sam Windsor agrees with me. He's going for the corner. We saw him drive one in, really a 13-man maul. They can certainly pull that one out of their bag of tricks if they need it once again. And Trouville has been the target. Look for the big number 5 to be going up for this ball.
O'Toole needs to be accurate. He is. Alejandro. All going backwards, though, well defended by the Arrows, as now O'Toole peels off. Sanguinetti. Wide now, Schramm. This is better work. Quick ball needed to the right here if they go. Murphy goes that way. Little juggle. O'Toole, one-on-one. O'Toole straining for the try line. He's over. Can he get it down, though? That's the question. No try. We'll come back for the scrum. Oh, tense moments here.
Well, advantage played, just penalties right here, offsides, and Connor Murphy goes quickly, sees somebody on the outside.
It's Kalenasau to Esdale, and there's the try in the corner. 2 in a row for the SaberCats. And don't look now, Brian Hightower, but is this a comeback?
Well, maybe a little too early, but certainly don't want to jinx it for the SaberCats. I'll tell you what, they're the ones that are playing all the rugby right now. Things going their way, and Connor Murphy, sometimes you see scrum half going quickly, and you want him to maybe think twice, but it is on right here. You can see on the outside, Kalenasau waving his hand quickly. Let's go, give me the ball, and it skips out to Kalenasau. He thinks he can get it done by himself, and he needs Esdale for the assist at the end. That's a great try, and once again, SaberCats clawing their way back in. They're keeping the fans in the stadium for sure.
Big kick coming up here for Windsor. 14-point difference between both these sides right now. This would take the SaberCats to within 2 converted tries of taking the lead.
3, 4, and 15.
One stage to the right, unsuccessful. Score remains 34-20. The Arrows, they are in the lead here, but you have to be chewing on the nails if you're up in Toronto after last week, seeing a 13-point lead evaporate against Seattle, and definitely in control here by a much greater margin, I believe, for 24 at one point. And all of a sudden, here we go.
And I was just thinking about last week when you mentioned it.
And 15. And 15 too.
You wonder if something like that result gets into the heads of a team. We mentioned the youth on the side of this Toronto Arrows team, and sometimes experience builds resilience and age builds resilience, and you wonder if they're mentally strong enough to hold on to a lead.
It's been a much improved performance from that man tonight, and Connor Murphy. As Windsor steps into scrum half. Surely he won't box kick this. Oh, he will. He can do everything. One comes down midfield though. Now it's the Arrows moving towards the center of the field. Ferguson. I thought Malcolm was shaping for a drop goal then, Brian, but there goes a pretty pointless kick there from Malcolm. Pangelian in no danger, taps quick off the free kick and drives this ball well and truly over the halfway line and over the sideline for the SaberCats.
And basically a free ball to the SaberCats. We talked about the kicking game in the first half a little bit. That time it's Toronto that gives one away, and you give it to Pangolinan, and he's got a enormous right boot. Calls the free kick, plenty of time, no pressure on him, and he's able to relieve the pressure there with that kick. So far, Dan, haven't seen Houston figure out the defense of this Toronto line out, but there are a couple times Trouville's come close.
We go midfield to a looping Ferguson. Wide now, Sheridan. Picks up the 23, Mires. Now Malcolm, short, finds Wainwright.
4 and 9 black, offside.
Offside.
4 and black, offside.
Against Murphy. And Meeson there, just sneaking past the backman's foot.
A different strategy now, and you can tell from Malcolm, he's pointing at the post.
What do you do?
2 tries up. And they're going to slow the game down now if they can. Just let the clock run, and they'll take all these shots. And we talked in the first half about how most of the opportunities that Toronto took from the penalty would be kicks to the corner, but not in this circumstance. And this is actually a really important kick, because this puts Houston more than 2 converted tries away if it's successful.
It'll be Malcolm, the fly half from New Zealand. 42 meters out, right in front of the posts here. Give them a 17-point lead. No mistakes there. 37-20. 57 points scored in this game. Better than a point a minute.
Number 4 off, and number 14. 14 off. 4 and how many? What's the number? 4 and 14.
Robert Meeson, he's going to take a break, and as is Kelly Kohlberg for Houston. Looked like Connor Mills, Houston native, comes onto the field for Houston.
There's Sheridan flirting with the sideline.
It's a great job there by Aaron Schramm. And he looks like he's paid the price for it, but he's able to drag the ball carrier from Toronto just into touch, and that's a great turnover for Houston. Schramm up a little slow. He's already got a brace on that right wrist, and he's holding it. Looks like he might have just giving it a little knock.
You already said they're ravaged by injuries down in Houston. To lose someone like Strams would be just a... How much hair does Justin Fitzpatrick have left now? What color is it?
A lot less than he did last month.
Still rolling with this maul. Now comes to ground. Well, could be a penalty there. Lazo looked like he's playing that on the ground. They'll play it on though. Turns it to Esdale. Esdale spills that forward though. Now Moore has the ball. Dangerous in broken play. That one though over the sideline. No advantage. We'll come back to the knock on against Houston.
It's a directive. It's a directive. My communication is too fast. My bad.
But the Houston was reminding the referee there, Corbier, that he had set advantage over, and they had kicked it straight out. Was the problem? They wanted the ball back where it was kicked, and Henri Corbier says, "I'm sorry, I communicated too quickly. Let's come back here for the scrum." From the original knock-on from Malachi Esdale. We saw that blindside move when Joshua Vithi scored in San Diego a couple of weeks ago, and Esdale trying to pull the same move with Sam Winster dragging across the field to create that space, but Toronto reads it well and causes the turnover.
That one collapses, we'll reset. I'm sure Toronto have done their homework on some of those set pieces from the SaberCats.
Don't enter too fast, okay? Keep it on the line, keep it space.
More changes coming on as Turnbull finds himself in the front row along with Connolly.
Crouch! Bind!
There you get a little preview of the communication at the scrum, both sides. Francis peels off. Ferguson finds Malcolm back in the pocket under pressure. Angelinen lets that one bounce as it trickles up to the 22.
White line out.
There'll be a wide line out. Well, that's a critical error. I'm not sure if he realised that his player had deflected that ball off the kick. Probably would have been a little more aggressive to play at it, but that's a big turn. 40, 50 yards for Toronto.
A couple of fortuitous things there. You actually saw Toronto scrum going backwards. Colby Francis does a really nice job of taking that ball off the back while the Toronto scrum was getting pressured, and then off the hand of a Houston player after the kick, and then Pangilinan lets it roll into touch, thinking that it's his line out.
All right, we'll take a short break. We'll return. The second half concludes. It's 37-20, Toronto over Houston.
Okay, I will check that. Yeah, thank you very much. That was fine.
Once upon a time, there was a time when time stood still and you could pause the hustle and bustle to unwind with good music and a cold, refreshing beer. Well, friend, that time can now be any time thanks to Love Street Kolsch Style Blonde. It's a crisp, easy drinking, go-with-the-flow beer brewed with floral German hops. Hello. Well, hi there. When all you need is to kick back and give the soul some free time, all you need is Love Street. Brewed with love in Houston, Texas by the Carbach Brewing Company.
Brother on three. 1, 2, 3.
On the board. Think about all the things you sacrificed. Think of how far you've come. What we're going to do today to kickstart this brand new league off.
Oh my goodness, a win, Super for Houston, Texas. What a try to the SaberCats.
You have this, and that is a fact.
Pause the broadcast, okay?
Back here at Constellation Field. Players returning from the break.
Mark is here.
Still a tight game, this one, Brian. 17 points, as we saw at the end of the first half, though. That can change very, very quickly.
Yeah, and you know, that 10 points, that heartbreaking couple of minutes right at the second half may be the difference in this game, and how heartbreaking that would be, because Houston's actually been able to play some pretty good rugby in this second half. the jersey of Quattrin pretty much says it all.
A little juggle at the top there from the Arrows, and now it's the SaberCats who have the ball inside their 22. Murphy at the back. Charge down though, looked like he was offside. Referee agrees as Van Horn got through just a touch too quickly.
And what looked like a surrendered possession from Houston is going to turn into a pretty good result for them. The penalty, the territory they get from the kick, and now a line out to come. And now, Dan, we talked about the clock not necessarily being their enemy about 15 minutes ago, and now it certainly is.
We are into the final 20 here in Houston, Texas.
Fight.
Schramm does well. Comes down now. Beauchamp. To find his way to the ground. Does so eventually. Murphy. Another penalty though. This one goes the way of the SaberCats again.
You're not rolling away there and interfering with the ball and the opportunity for Houston to play it. You can see Sam Windsor, he's not even going to make a decision about the posts. He quickly goes to the touch line, and they know what their debt is and what it's going to take to get back in the game.
Let's jump down back onto the field with Austin Ivan for an update.
Thanks, Dan. This week in the Houston SaberCats welcomed in reinforcement from South America in the form of 3 Uruguayan.
You watch wing behind.
Again, some issues down on the field there. As we continue play here, they'll look to Maul. Toronto have done exceptionally well, apart from that try they gave up to the Maul, defending this from Houston. O'Toole peels off. Advantage coming the way of Houston again. Murphy, animated at the back.
Free ball here, still advantage being played by Corbier.
Now Windsor dummies, Windsor steps another. What a run from Sam Windsor! He does it all himself. Beautiful individual performance, and the SaberCats, they're still alive.
Sometimes it's just going against the flow and everything moving to the outside, because when Murphy isolates Windsor with the ball, everybody thinks that it's going wide. And just the first inside step is followed by 2 more. Watch this. 1, 2, and 3. Back into the center of the posts, and of course quickly goes Houston. 2 points, the conversion, and here they come. Dan, I don't know if they have enough time, but still nobody's moving out of their seats at Constellation Field.
27-37, 10-point ball game. How about that from Windsor though? Right foot, bang, under the post. Brilliant individual effort, and it's a performance like that, an individual performance that can sometimes spark your team in the best way possible, Brian. Let's see how the Toronto Arrows can respond to that. And you just wonder if that, that seed of doubt from last week starts sprouting in the back of their minds. They gave up that 13-point lead to Seattle. Oh, beautiful take up high at the back there from Mires.
A lot of pressure coming from Kalinisau from that kick by Murphy, and Mieres does really well. 63 caps for Uruguay. A lot of experience from the Uruguayan winger.
Now Wainwright. Important for Toronto to not stop playing rugby here and shut up shop. Still 15 minutes left on the clock. Under pressure though. You can see a spring in the step of the SaberCats now. At the back of that try. Yirez, fresh legs at the back there for the Arrows.
Great pressure by Houston. They're coming up really quick. Their line speed, and they're forcing Toronto to kick the ball back to them. It's a pretty nice little nudge, though, out at the 22-meter line. So, again, we'll talk about the kick game and surrendering territory for possession. And I think that's a net benefit for Toronto. It slows the game down, and they're willing to play defense here inside the 22 meters of the Houston SaberCats.
Yeah, I agree, Brian. We'll give you the ball, but you're going to go 80 meters to score. O'Toole has this throw. And you can see at the back, picks up Nito. They maul down now. Up to the 40. Windsor, bobbles that one and puts it down. There'll be a scrum here for the Arrows, and that one can take the wind out of the sails there for the SaberCats.
Yeah, and Windsor knows that too, and I'm not sure what the plan was there. Sometimes maybe thinking about too many options, and at fly half, perhaps because they need to get into the Toronto territory, was Windsor thinking about the nudge, or was he thinking about maybe having a go, and instead he drops the ball. Hard to do three things at the same time.
Kevin, time is correct on the board.
And Dan, if you look at the scoreboard, the difference in this game right now is a couple of minutes.
Okay.
At the 40-minute mark of that first half. Otherwise, they'd be locked up 27-all.
Big scrum coming up here for the Arrows. They would like to just add a little bit more to that 10-point lead if they could. Collectively, I think most of Canada would agree. Just a touch easier maybe if they could give a more breathing room here from the SaberCats.
Look for a big push coming from the tight head on the far side there from Charlie Connolly.
Platform for the Arrows though. Little juggle at the back, well handled by Wilson. There you can see really slowing things down here at the Arrows.
No hands.
Quatrin. Well, if anyone personifies how physical this game has been, it is Andrew Quatrin. His jersey, a scarlet red.
He's about a pint low, for sure, on the blood count.
Good pressure coming in from the SaberCats, so forces the Arrows back. Ferguson. Little run before he dinks this one over the top. Murphy will take the mark inside his 22.
9. Yeah, back, guys.
That's a good result for the SaberCats, pinned down in their own half, and they need to first relieve the pressure, and that's goal number one. So they get across the halfway line, they'll play some rugby there, and who knows, we've seen them already steal one line out from Toronto. This is a big one. If they can steal this throw from Andrew Quatrin,
time is off, Kevin. We are on the line.
It'll be a big moment for these SaberCats, Dan. It's still 10 minutes left in the game, and the way we've seen this game play out so far, that's plenty of time to score a couple tries on either side.
Here's the mark.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah.
Here's our mark. Here's our mark.
White.
To the mark.
The gap.
Step up to the mark. On the mark.
There you see, not surprisingly, just a pensive look on the bench of the Arrows players.
That's a maul. Come on.
Well, as they secure that line out and begin to maul this ball up towards the halfway line.
Interesting there, Dan. I think Houston wanted a call for a not straight line-out throw, and the way the referee was positioned, he'd never be able to see it anyways.
Malcolm picks up his inside centre in Jones. Ferguson comes to Van Horn. It's Thomas Van Horn coming off the bench in 19. Woodman.
Hands off, Black.
Ferguson short. Wilson with another touch. Heavily involved since he got on the field. Now Malcolm, quick hands. Out the back they go. Jones, Moore. Now with a bit of space in front of Moore. He runs into a big shoulder from Tackett. Both players reeling. Numbers down this blind side again. Ferguson, though, has an option. Goes to his left to Malcolm. Brower still on the field. 37 years of age. He'll punch his ticket for 80 minutes, you would think, tonight at this rate.
Quality minutes, too, from the prop. Great job by Connor Murphy.
Well, just like that, though, the good work immediately undone as he heads to the sideline. Had support, he's inside. He's been having some issues with cramping the last few minutes as he stays down on the ground.
Yeah, it's too bad because Murphy makes the move, and then I think he's looking back inside for somebody to dish to, but not enough of the SaberCats players have retreated, so he doesn't have an option to throw to, and instead steps into touch instead.
Nine substitution, and the other one is...
Some more changes come, not surprisingly. Bernardo comes on. He'll close this game out. Ferguson. Outstanding performance from Andrew Ferguson in the 9 jersey tonight. I thought his service has been outstanding.
And a great team effort by the Arrows. And you know, we haven't really called anybody's name more than any other in the forward pack for this Arrows squad. And that just means that they're getting it done as a unit.
Wilson spins around with Quattrin. Linked just short of the line. Advantage for collapsing the maul. Oh, that one just spilled forward. Great shot right down there. No advantage will come back for the penalty. Desperately close, though, from the Arrows.
Number 16, Black. On the side, and
the call is on the reserve prop, Amro Gouda, and he's called for collapsing the maul.
Number 16.
Well, this is an indication of the confidence of this Toronto pack. And we saw in the last scrum, Dan, that really Toronto was able to deal it to Houston pretty well, which is surprising considering the first half and how strong the Houston scrum looked. Give credit to the old men up front, including Rob Brower, who's still in this game at 37 years young.
Smart play here from the Arrows. Precious seconds ticking away every time the scrum is reset. There you see on the right of your screen, Murphy still dealing with those cramps stretching out. Riley Donato has spotted his opposite number yet. Big push coming from the Arrows as they march this one towards the try line. They have the advantage. Pull that scrum around, Brian, and at this point, Toronto, you have to pack another scrum.
Absolutely. You know, they're another penalty away, most likely from a penalty try. Normally, Dan, the referee's logic here is that Toronto doesn't have any incentive to wheel their own scrum because they're trying to push for the line this close in. So the penalty is normally, in these circumstances, awarded to the team with the put in, with the ball, and that's exactly what happens here. It's Houston penalized. They got to dig deep for this scrum.
Better platform as this one spins again. They come down the blind side. Oh, they go over. They talked about Murphy dealing with some mobility issues, and they've exploited that. It looks like Diego Magno has scored the try there. And he's one of those players who's come in from Uruguay, Brian.
Yeah.
Well, it was all Toronto in the scrum. We'll take another look at this. And actually, I think it was Andrew Wilson, the reserve for Toronto, who's put that one over the line.
Apologies to Andrew Wilson. I glanced at the wrong roster there for a second.
Happens to the best of us, my man.
And I've already called him a few times, Wilson.
Well, he won't care what you call him, because the important part for Toronto is that they've got the 5-pointer that they were looking for. And more importantly, Dan, now we've talked about the clock a few times. This seems to put the game out of reach for Houston. Look who's coming off the field, bottom of the screen right there. Our man, Andrew Quatrin, who has donated plenty of blood tonight for the cause.
Now Malcolm out wide. He's had a great night with the boot, has young Malcolm. That one, no mistake through the post. They extend their lead.
He's outside of the field. Okay, Kevin? 19, back, behind.
SaberCats not wasting any time with this restart. Try scorer Wilson. There's Donato. Goes high up the box kick. Truvel dances with the sideline before he slings that one back in to his fullback, Tangelinen. Saints brought up to the SaberCats top squad this week. Go wide now, Windsor. Tackett. Each one bounces away from another before he's brought down by Jones.
Dan, things don't look any easier for Houston. If you look at the schedule coming up, they've got New York as their next opponent. They'll host them next week. And then it's Seattle, followed by NOLA Gold. So the 3 top teams in the MLR right now are the next 3 games for Houston.
Somewhat of a murderer's row there for Justin Fitzpatrick and his men. Penalty goes to the Arrows. Not releasing down there as signs of desperation start to creep into the SaberCats lineup. High-scoring game, 27-44, but I think this has really been the coming out party for those Toronto Arrows tonight.
You know, and it's really important. We talked about this a few weeks ago when the ARCs started, so a lot of international players being called up for both the United States and Canada, and how important it is to be able to win without your star players there. And for Toronto, this is a massive game for them. And to be able to score some tries, to play some expansive rugby, to dominate the set piece the way they have in the second half. All of these are great signs for a team that won't even have a home game for another couple weeks, Dan. And then when they do have those home games, they'll have their full complement.
And I imagine that's going to be a tough road trip for these sides to go up north of the border to Toronto. Great sporting city, Toronto. I'm sure the fans are going to come out in force up there too.
And a very passionate rugby town, Toronto. I think they'll do a good job putting butts in seats to support these Arrows players, and you know, things started pretty slowly for Toronto, but they could end well for the Arrows.
SaberCats now with Saints into the final few seconds here. Just one high down the middle of the field. As both teams let it bounce, almost gets into the hands of Windsor.
First knock on white, second knock on black.
Knock on both ways, we'll pack the scrum.
And Dan, when we talk about Houston, you know, there's a figurative, you know, expression about licking your wounds. They literally are going to lick the wounds. They have so many injured players. And, you know, you just wonder, and I think the head coach, Justin Fitzpatrick, is going to wonder what things are going to look like once he has his full complement back. They got some players who've come in, who've gotten a bunch of international caps for Uruguay. They've got some good players, but now they need to mold them a little bit more.
Penalty goes to the SaberCats. They'll get last use of the ball here tonight.
17 white driving across.
Looking to give their fans one last thing to cheer about.
Great little kick downfield for Sam Windsor. Gobbles up a ton of territory. Well, see if they can at least end on a positive note, put a few phases together here. They'll have the line out, and then whatever they can utilize from the line out. But the next stoppage, Dan, is the end of the road.
They'll look to go back to the maul again, the SaberCats. Push through that one, brought down, they had the advantage. No rush. Windsor, he'll put this one as close to the try line as he can. One last chance here for Houston to put some points on the board. Tonight really has been the Toronto Arrows who have played the more consistent rugby through 80 minutes.
Well, and Dan, to put this play into context, you know, as tight as the MLR is, if they score another try, that fourth try yields a bonus point. Kind of emblematic of the night for Houston.
Yes, it is, as that one goes over the sideline, and there is the full-time whistle. The Toronto Arrows, they've gone on the road and defeated the Houston SaberCats 44 points to 27. Their second win of the season that will see them shift upwards in the standings here in Major League Rugby. We'll take a short break. When we return to Constellation Field, we'll go down a man of the match.
Thank you. Thank you, Trevor. Thank you.
HOUvTOR, proudly sponsoring Houston SaberCats Rugby. With over 16,000 customers and 4,400 employees across the globe, we have delivered unrivaled excellence for more than 50 years. In an environment that's increasing in complexity, the one constant is the need for change. Change driven by new demands, by the desire to do things better, and by sustaining what you've created. We enable customers to master change, pushing boundaries in a digital world where everything is possible.
We know athletes because we are athletes. At the Sports Medicine Clinic at the Baylor College of Medicine, we provide top-level care to athletes of all levels in Houston and around the country. As the official healthcare provider of the Houston SaberCats, our doctors are dedicated to safely enhancing our athletes' performance while promoting recovery and injury prevention, getting you back on the field, in the game, and ready to roar.
Once upon a time, there was a time when time stood still and You could pause the hustle and bustle to unwind with good music and a cold, refreshing beer. Well, friend, that time can now be any time thanks to Love Street Kolsch Style Blonde. It's a crisp, easy drinking, go-with-the-flow beer brewed with floral German hops. Hello. Well, hi there. When all you need is to kick back and give the soul some free time, all you need is Love Street. Brewed with love in Houston, Texas by the Carbach Brewing Company.
Patty Smith here with Paul Gallant of Cube 57's newest sports show, Just Saying.
We're at the Rustic every Thursday for lunch. Guys, this is the coolest new spot in Houston. Great drinks, killer food, cool vibe.
Not to mention, they have great live music. Catch the best local and national acts on the outdoor stage.
Check them out online at therustic.com. Check out Just Saying at Cube57.com.
And hit us up with your questions every Thursday at noon right here at the Rustic.
Just saying, you won't regret it.
Tonight's match was brought to you by Aviva, Carbach Brewing, and Baylor College of Medicine. Brian, a great match, great performances right across the board. It was tough to single out one player, but we've gone with Andrew Quatra in the hooker. Just his resilience and his toughness to come through that earlier injury. And take a look at that right there. That is a rugby player.
Yeah, it looks like a tie-dyed jersey tonight. And he definitely controlled the line-out throws. I thought he was great in the loose phases of the game as well, and certainly command of the front row when they needed the scrum in the second half.
A great performance for the Toronto Arrows as they run out victorious here tonight in a somewhat convincing fashion. But Brian, it was really the back end of that first half that gave it. 2 quick tries right before the halftime break.
Quick strikes by Toronto. First off, a silly penalty for coming in from the side of a ruck by Houston, and that yielded a 3-pointer. Thought it was going to go to a break, but there was some injury time left in the half, and who would have thought that 10 points would have been yielded in those moments? And that ended up being, well, not exactly the difference, but certainly a big blow to the confidence of the SaberCats, in my opinion. And when they came back out, Houston was still playing rugby, and they really put the exclamation point on it.
That will wrap us up here at Constellation Field in Sugar Land, Texas. And it was the Toronto Arrows who ran out winners over the Houston SaberCats. Brian Hightower and our entire crew, I'm Dan Power saying good night till next time.